Hello there, welcome back to DeI Impera with Sparta Abridged, where in the previous part we finished off the Roman Republic and then went right on to start betraying our allies so that we could have their territory for administrative purposes or something. That went okay. We were also invaded by Knossos back in Sparta, where thanks to some AI glitches we were able to hold them off, although not really kill them very much. Now we need to try and finish off what remains of the Samnite League. They were sitting in the sea just off the coast of Italy. I sent out my main force in transports to attack them. The balance bar was good enough for me to not bother with a naval battle. Unfortunately, we lost our one unit of Spartan hoplites. Eventually we'll have enough population to actually make some Spartan hoplites. They're only recruited from like your elite top tier population, and they're barely any better than regular hoplites to be fair, so I'm kind of ignoring them. Anyway, we win that battle and away the enemy go. After that I wanted to move south with my main force to go after some rebels, and you see me here checking to see if this town's garrison could hold if the enemy come back, and of course the reason I mention that is because they immediately do come back, and no, the town garrison can't hold. So while I did actually check in a rare twist, I didn't check to any sort of degree. I guess I didn't look at the numbers. Our units are basically empty, whereas the enemy units, while also being basically empty, are normal units that have higher stats than garrison ones. I originally thought we're going to have to just run around the edge of the map to win this because I can't be bothered to lose it, but losing it isn't such a bad option, as we'll see. Got distracted when I noticed one of the enemy's ships is going absolutely wild out there. They went a bit too far up the beach it seems, and nobody wants to get out and push. They're trying their best. Maybe the air resistance will eventually allow them to row their way backwards. In the meantime, I decided to stop running away and just let the enemy attack me because life is too short. Winning is kind of boring in many cases if you're just going to do it via exploits, especially if you have to wait an entire in-game hour to do it. Eventually I quit the battle without even seeing the result. I was pretty sure we were going to lose. And then, once it's our turn again, we can just immediately retake the town for free. Much faster. The only downside to this is if I had anything being constructed in the town, the construction would have been cancelled by it switching sides. So perhaps this cost me some money, but it saved me a good 15 minutes of real life time at least, and probably saved a whole bunch of power from my CPU running a battle at quadruple speed. In many ways, I'm saving the world, and of course, the Samnite League were defeated anyway, so that's the end of that. Now we get back to the business of killing our own people because they keep rebelling. We're just going to annihilate them time after time. I'm not bothering to farm the rebels because I was trying to use the patrol stance to build public order instead. Because patrol stance also reduces your unit's upkeep, it seemed like a good investment to be using that, but it doesn't do very much either to your public order or to your upkeep, to be fair, so not much was happening. I've also now got a whole bunch of recruitment options I can pick down in southern Italy due to it being kind of Greek, and that roster gets expanded in the next turn because we have some reforms go through. We've got the Therophoroi reforms, which let us recruit various not hoplite units which are more useful and versatile, especially at this point when I'm not even using my hoplites as hoplites. We also have the Cleomenes reforms, which allows us to recruit more hoplite units like a pike phalanx, basically Macedonian style units. So loads of stuff available now, and loads of area of recruitment versions of it still available in Italy because they're Greek enough. So we can make some more interesting armies over time. In particular, we can put cavalry in our armies that aren't completely terrible, so we'll probably get to that. Then I noticed that Knossos are coming at us with another army. The army that attacks Sparta is still standing there, by the way, just not doing anything. This army coming in could take Taras. I wanted to garrison Taras, but in this mod, of course, that's not really a good idea because it reduces your public order, the last thing we want right now. I did notice that from the direction of the model, we can guess that this fleet is actually going towards Apollonia, which we can't really defend. But anyway, I was so annoyed by the prospect of not garrisoning Taras, I actually just quit and installed the sub-mod for DeI Impera that reverses the public order mechanic changes. So now you can increase public order using troops directly. I get what they were going for with the whole it reducing when your troops are there because you're annoying the citizens effectively by living in their houses. But because you can't do things like build forts or a barracks or something in order to establish a permanent garrison and a customizable garrison, it's just annoying. If there were more options in the game, I might be up for this, but my patience has worn thin, so we're doing this the easier way now. The Knossos fleet does go for Apollonia, so that's inconvenient because we don't have much here. However, it's still worth fighting because we do spawn some garrison ships, and against enemy transport ships we're pretty much guaranteed to kill some of them on the way in and take out some full units, which is the only thing that really matters in a last stand defense. So that's ideal. We go straight for their two best units. They are in amongst a bunch of Cretan archers, so our crews are getting bombarded on the way in, but luckily a frontal strike against a transport will kill it in one hit. So just like that, two heavy hoplite units are destroyed. In turn, our two ship crews are destroyed by the billions of arrows raining down upon them. So that's the end of that, really. We do also, though, have a bit of a fight going on in the town that could be to our advantage. Because their cavalry are deployed separately, that means they'll fight on their own for a while, and they're going to be fighting in many cases against spearmen, so we can grab some kills here. Plus they've got archers shooting into their jav cav. Those javs are just flattening my helot spears, who don't really matter, so that's fine. And in this fashion, we can trade somewhat effectively. The helot spears are so bad that even against jav cav in melee, it is a struggle, but we've also got some hoplites in there, and we do take out a whole bunch of them and kill their general as well. That doesn't necessarily matter because they'll just respawn another general, but it's nice for the memes. At this stage the enemy are starting to land their troops, and you can see I've set up a whole bunch of troops in the town centre to defend this little square. I hope we might actually be able to keep them out and maybe do something with this battle. As it happens though, their Cretan archers landed in a perfect position to shoot into the non-shielded flanks of my phalanxes. So they're going to annihilate us basically, and there's not too much we can do about it. I did eventually send some hoplites to go and challenge them, but it took them so long to get there that it was too late, and the hoplites I sent also died in melee to something over here. So long story short, the battle did go on for a while, and I thought we had a chance, but that chance disappeared rapidly over time, and we eventually lose the town. So that's a shame, but we don't actually lose the town, as you'll see. We've taken out some of the enemy army, not the best trade, but because they actually just sack it or something, that means the garrison will not die, so ultimately it wasn't that bad of a trade, and we still have the town making us some money, just less of it. And then after a turn when I did nothing because I was just charging up public order, they attacked again. So now we have our respawned half-dead garrison ships, and we want to fight again to do the same thing. We can now guarantee another couple of kills on enemy infantry units. Plus, we can take out the enemy's cav again, who are now very weak and will be attacking on their own. The formation the enemy took up helped us out here, because their archers were at one end of this line of ships. So if we attack the other end, we can go and ram stuff without being hit by arrows, meaning the first two kills, the first two ships of kills I should say, are for free. There we go, that's two enemy infantry units just out of the fight instantly. And now we can turn and start trying to ram the next ones down the line as well. Meanwhile in the town, our archers are set up to shoot at the enemy's jav cav, and there aren't very many of them, so we're actually going to be able to take them down pretty easily, plus we have spearmen defending there. So that's good, and this fight at the back here is good as well, as a couple more enemy ships are now falling victim to our ramming attacks. When you ram from behind, it doesn't do very much damage. It is sort of momentum based, which is quite good. You have to get a good ramming angle and good speed to do more damage. But because we're not being shot by arrows right now, we can afford to ram multiple times and gradually take down a couple more ships. But as we move down the enemy line, you can see what happens when the arrows start finding us. We just die instantly. I have a sneaking suspicion that the slow combat mod, which somebody said it adds 50% health to everything, probably doesn't affect naval crews. That's the sort of thing that people would forget to do when making such a mod. So our naval crews probably die real fast, but since they're just a freely spawning garrison unit, I don't mind, this is going pretty well. We bag another cheeky ship kill and then run away before the arrows kill us. So we took out more than half of that line of ships coming in against us. We've severely weakened the enemy's infantry component. They still have a distinct advantage on the balance bar because we have a lot of garrison stuff that sucks. So what we're going to do is walk off towards the corner. It's time for another one of these. I was going for the thing where you just walk off outside of the town, the AI just gives up on life, and then you can go and do something else in real life and come back to it. It makes this exploit kind of useful because you can do the washing up and stuff and to just get through things. In this case though, it didn't work so well because, as we've seen before actually in this campaign, sometimes the enemy will notice you're doing the exploit and will come out of the town to go and face you in a field battle. When that happens though, there is one more option, and that is to be in two places at once. Because the enemy want to keep their formation together, you can ruin their thought process by having two places for them to look at the same time. They won't walk towards both, and you can get it to a point when it won't walk towards either. So here we capture the point with our landed marines and then just run off to hide in the corner so they can't see that marine unit anymore. And that's going to be enough. It reminded me of when I was playing as the Getae in DeI Impera, and I did this a few times. If you capture a town or recapture a town after the enemy's taken it, that really bamboozles the AI and they really don't know whether to go back and take the town again or to go out and try to look for you. In this case, it ultimately has the result we need. You can see the enemy units just kind of stop. They all just switch off. They can't see any of our units, and I don't know how the AI works. It kind of remembers where it last saw you, but perhaps these antics of having our marines appear kind of cancelled that, so they don't know where to look for us. Nothing happens, is the long story short there, and here's the next relevant moment. After the battle, a heroic victory. We took out half the enemy's infantry, some of their cav as well, and we actually won the battle, so no sacking or risk of losing the town. Overall, pretty good, and the exploit gods will surely punish us for this, but at least we have Apollonia. We don't really need it, just defending it for the sake of it at this stage, to see if the game will let me defend it really. After those 2 wins I thought, let's actually put a unit in here, let's commit a bit more to this because it's going surprisingly well. Started adding some generic trash infantry from this area, some kind of interesting slinger unit by the looks of things. Maybe it's less trash than I thought, but we don't actually get to use them because the enemy attack immediately again. So it's time for the 3rd Battle of Apollonia. It's getting easier and easier each time because we keep respawning those ships, so we can take down a couple more enemy units as they come in. Plus now we have a General's Bodyguard, a really good unit we can use in a defense. As it happens, the enemy form up in our favour again because they have 3 melee ships separate from the archers. So we have all the time we need to freely just sink these ships before they arrive. We get a bad ram on one of them, so we have to adjust our position and do it again. It can be awkward to get the ships to turn and re-ram, but that all happens. Then I leave 1 unit behind for exploit purposes later and have another one. See if we can cheekily do some damage to their other ship formation. As it happens, we kind of come in behind their line, and this actually stops the nearby enemy archers from attacking us. I think the way it works is, on a transport ship, the guys are facing forwards, and they have the normal arc of fire of a land unit. However, if the models on the ship turn around, they can shoot in any direction. So it effectively works in the way that if the enemy see you behind them and give an order to target you, they can shoot you, but they can't fire at will at you. So that's a very deep, subtle exploit. It allows us to survive for a little bit until their ships happen to turn to realign to go to the beach, and then they do see us. But, as you also saw, we did take out 1 extra enemy transport with this cheekiness. So that's all good. They land their army. I again have put my troops out in the distance to see how the enemy will react to this, and I'm ready if I need to land my marines to try and do the exact same exploit as before. Even though we might actually be able to win this battle, I again was looking to leave the room and do something else, which I always am when playing Rome 2 of course. In this case we got even more lucky though. We got the original version of the exploit where the enemy just switches off of its own accord. You don't even have to do anything, they just walk into the town and then die. So that's that. We win the battle again, very easy. More enemy units dead, and overall their very embarrassing attacks on Apollonia actually do lead to something. It wasn't the biggest waste of time ever because we're able to get a peace treaty and confederation after all of those defeats they suffered, which is the ultimate result really, much better than anything else. They're just going to give us everything they have, all of their troops and territory will be ours. I was going to ask for money, but I thought no, let's just be nice, confederation's enough. And there we have it, we win this war. It was very successful. The camera looks at the wrong point, but it had the right idea. Down here on Crete, we have gained an extra territory. We've also stolen a navy and the remains of the army we were just killing, plus the army that was just standing near Sparta, which also sort of had its AI disabled and has just been standing there since it failed to take it. They're ours as well, with a few good units for us to pilfer. A very successful war in the end then. After that, we're now jumping forwards a while, since I just sat around charging up public order. But I still had a project to get to, and that is the taking of Arretium to complete the main Italia province. And that requires going to war with Massalia, and you can see I'm sizing them up. They're standing on the border, and I'm standing on their border. We're very clearly ready for this, both of us. I determined that their units are worse than mine. They had a bunch of like levied sword infantry that made up like half of their army that didn't look very impressive. So I thought, let's just plow right through them and see how this goes. We end up declaring war. Someone else joins the war with them. That's one of the tribes they're allied to out in the fog of war. And here we go, and things are actually better than I expected. I did expect actually my second army to be involved in this battle. Didn't achieve that. However, the balance bar is still pretty good, way better than I thought. So yes, their units are trash by the looks of things, or at least they're trash in comparison to my perhaps overpowered companion hoplites. So I take that auto resolve, thinking surely it can't be that easy, but no, it actually was pretty much fine. Their army gets really beaten up and will carry right on. Now we can link up with our second army to attack their second army and garrison. First we besiege the town, then my main force can run about and finish off their initial army, using the fact that my army traditions and general skills give me tons of movement, so we can do all of this in one turn. And then their second army sallies against our siege here. That's fine by me because that's going to make life much easier, so the Massalians are really throwing it away this time. In this battle though, I actually forgot I was the defender. I thought I was the attacker, and I was really slow about bringing in my reinforcements to make my formation, whereas the enemy just rushed me from their deployment zone. So they totally arrived while I was out of formation and stuff, and it's a bit of a mess, but our front line is still vaguely spearmen. They're vaguely attacking with cav, so it was kind of alright. The penalties for being attacked in the flank and while out of formation are still very small, so it's fine. Now we just gradually put things together as the enemy's infantry follow up behind, and we're going to have something resembling a battle line ready just in time to fight, and we're going to be on top of this nice ridge, which is what I was trying to do. I'm playing this battle not on slow motion. This is an ideal battle for a slow motion fight because we have so many units to micro, but I usually refuse to do that, so we're going to have all sorts of random fights going on where I'm just not paying attention as the player, and whatever happens, happens. We're getting bombarded by javs some places, obviously wouldn't see that when playing from above in-game. And other fights, well, we can just leave our hoplites to stand there and grind against what the enemy have, safe in the knowledge that we're probably fine. Here was a chance for the enemy to run their spears into my cav where I wasn't paying attention. They failed, but they did send in some citizens instead to try and do the same thing. Probably not going to work very well. My skirmishers are firing at will into these big enemy blobs, and that's going to do some serious damage, especially where they've awkwardly turned their flanks on us, like right here. Here's an example of some of the terrible animations that I claimed earlier might not be so much in this mod. I guess they're still there. On my left flank I've got some of our inferior Italian milites troops. The plan with them was just to cause a distraction and hold the enemy off on the left flank and not do too much. I also did want to do some sort of rear attack with some of my hoplites, but hoplites really aren't an ideal unit for that. Plus the enemy still have reinforcements that haven't been committed to the fight, so by making a rear attack we're also inviting a rear attack, although that's where those Italian milites will come in useful as a distraction. Here is our mighty rear charge, it just precisely nothing. But now that we're behind the enemy, we'll get that little morale penalty, and that might make the fight go a bit faster. Their general manages to flank attack my hoplites, but we're not in hoplite formation, so not much of a penalty there. And I think the hoplites might still get their bonus against cav even if they're not using their spears, which is handy. Here are some of our new Thurophoroi cavalry. I think these Thurophoroi cav are my new favourite unit. You can recruit them from non-Spartan population classes. They're pretty good. They're technically a jav cav unit, so they have loads of jabs, but they're also okay in melee and have a bunch of armour. So I'm just using them as my general purpose cav in this battle, and they do really well. They seem to be pretty hard to kill because they marauded around throughout the battle, attacking various pockets here and there. That's mainly what I was microing, and they did plenty of damage. Here's an example. These guys are preparing to charge uphill into the back of the enemy blob. Since they are technically a jav cav unit, their charge isn't going to really do anything, but it's a case where we're not using it for the kills. We're using it to get formation breached and attacked in the rear penalties on the enemy blobs. As mentioned, those penalties aren't that large, so it's not enough to break up blobs even when some of the troops in there are trash. But it will help, and if you do it enough times it should speed things along. Just a bit of micro to handle. We've also got the enemy's general locked down in this random fight between our cav and some spears. That's perfect. And back on the left you can see the distraction slash blocking maneuvers going on. We're just going to keep their garrison army that came on behind the main force busy doing not very much. We're profiting greatly from the fact that the AI doesn't really know how to use hoplites. They're moving very slowly. When they engage, it's only like 2 men in the unit fighting us, so it's absolutely perfect. Essentially nothing's happening with that secondary battle, and with the primary battle we're just hitting them from all sides again and again, and things will just keep getting better for us. So we're a bit later now. The enemy's garrison army has finally committed more, but their initial, more important army is basically gone. It's just been swallowed up by our main force. And you can see the process happening here as hoplite units end up fighting in all directions. That means they'll rout after they take only like 25% casualties, which happens relatively fast when you're fighting them from behind and they're in hoplite phalanx formation. And boom, once they rout, that's the end of them. The game, still lacking its fight to the death mechanic, means unfortunately all those guys will just have to die without fighting. And now we're cutting to basically the end. We just surround and pounded the garrison army as well, but we can't just end the battle because they came on as reinforcements. They will not be deleted when the battle ends due to quirks in the game. You have to kill them manually for it to count. So we do that for a while, and here's the eventual result. That battle went better than expected, and overall the campaign against Massalia has gone better than expected. We've just rampaged in here and killed basically everything real fast. We then do an auto-resolve once it's our turn again to finish off what's left here, and boom, the town is taken. So not much fanfare to that. I shied away from it early in the campaign thinking it might be too hard to do, but it was fine in the end. Perhaps just because we have our reformed units now we're a bit better. And you can immediately see I'm looking on to the next targets, which we'll be looking at in the next part. I want to go and fight some barbarians and to go and finish off Massalia and visit them in their hometown. So the Spartan Empire will start to conquer out to the north in the next part.